All right, I'm joined by Alex and Katelyn, and we're going to chat a little bit about the ongoing U.S. Olympic track and field trials, which are going on in Eugene, Oregon right now. They're not wrapped up yet, but we'll get into some of the drama and excitement. One pretty dramatic situation in particular that we'll unpack. We'll also do a quick preview of the Western States 100, which is, I guess, the Super Bowl of ultra trail races. We'll talk about why you should care about it, who the favorites are going in, what the race is all about. And then our big topic of the week is going to be picking Alex's brain about the state of running shoes in 2024, buying shoes in 2024, what the different categories are, what to look for when you're for training, for racing, kind of a complete guide. A shoe guide, as it were, from our shoe god, Alex Cyr.
Oof.
Wow.
Yeah, big.
Pressure.
The pressure is on to deliver.
What praise.
Indeed, yeah. But first, guys, how's it going? What's going on? Alex, you're back home. You're on Prince Edward Island, the land of Anne of Green Gables, living with mom and dad. How's that going? Are they serving you meals? Are you back in your little tiny bed from when you were a kid?
I am. This is day 6 of living with my parents, and I think I've just expired the period of time in which it's like totally cool to do absolutely nothing and to be a piece of crap and watch TV all day and not help out around the house. And I think at this point it's starting to feel a little bit weird. So I'm starting to contribute. Like I did the dishes yesterday. Like I put the dishes
Wow.
in the dishwasher yesterday. Yeah.
What a mensch.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my kid is, it's his last day of senior kindergarten today. So school's wrapping up. We're recording this.
Oh.
Full disclosure, we recorded this yesterday, Thursday, and the internet failed us. Technology failed us. So we did an entire podcast that then disappeared. So we're doing a quick re-record and we're going to push it out. So if you're one of the few that is waiting with bated breath at 5 o'clock in the morning on Friday Eastern time to receive our pod and devour it on your early morning run, we apologize for failing you. We will do better in the future. So we're getting to redo the whole thing right now. And so we're recording this Friday. My kid just finished school or is finishing school, and he's about to enter the endless summer of being like a 6-year-old in the summertime. Like I remember watching cartoons in the morning and eating Pop-Tarts and then wandering until 7 p.m. in the forest with my friends. My child does not live that existence anymore. That existence I don't think exists anymore for anybody.
That was totally my childhood.
Yeah.
We did exactly the same thing. Like my parents would say, okay, go out and don't come back until the sun comes down. And we're like, okay, we're going to go hang out in the woods.
How do we all survive? I have no idea.
I don't know.
Yeah. But Alex, I don't know. And Prince Edward Island is this idyllic sort of fantasy land. Is it might still be like that, although of course you're an adult now. So, but I guess you could watch cartoons and eat Fruit Loops every morning and then crush a whole bunch of runs.
Yeah, well, the first 5 days feel like that. You know, you can do whatever you want, and it's nice to just have no responsibility. And then it creeps up on you. You want to participate in the world and act like you're actually 28 years old. The running is nice, though. I'm hitting my old running routes. A lot of them are like 10-mile loops or out and backs. And right now I'm just running 30 minutes at a time. So there's this part of me that wants to hammer the runs still. So I've been experimenting with slightly faster, easy runs than usual. I'm not trying. Boy. It's just happening. They call it, is this going to put us on the explicit side? I'll just spell it out. PISS. Post-injury speed syndrome.
Piss.
Well,
it's like the most appropriate. That is actually an acronym, because there's like acronym and initialism. A lot of people call it an acronym when it actually doesn't spell anything, but in that case, that actually spells something. So that's a real acronym. Piss. That's a perfect acronym.
Yeah, so I'm deep into piss.
What I take from what you just said is like an oxymoron: a slightly faster, easy run. So is it an easy run, Alex, or is it a fast run?
Coach Katelyn coming off the top rope here. This is I love this ongoing bit where like We pretend like Katelyn is kind of a little bit pissed off that Alex didn't hire her as a coach. So
Yeah.
now she's chastising him left and right for every
Yeah,
screw up
yeah.
he makes.
Quote unquote pretend, and then put a layer of complexity on top of that. My actual coach John listens to all of these podcasts, so I'm going to get a text after this saying, "Hey, how fast are you going on your easy runs anyway?"
Exactly. Yeah.
So as
John, give me a call. Let me know. I'll keep you in the loop.
it's a little like side channel here. I am friends with Alex's coach John LaFranco, who's an excellent coach here in Canada and works for Athletics Canada as well. And I had this little side channel conversation, a little chat with Alex, and he's like, if things go awry with you and Alex, hopefully, it doesn't hurt our friendship. And I'm like, no, don't worry about it. I'm going to blame Alex for everything.
There you go.
Well, so far so good. So
good.
Nothing to worry about.
Excellent.
Yeah.
We'll check back in when you've hurt yourself again.
Mhm.
Caitlin,
Speaking,
yeah.
No, speaking of hurting yourself or not hurting yourself, Michael, I think you owe us a story about your 80K.
I was kind of hoping we would just forget
forgotten
about it
about
for the re-record, the repod here.
I
Yeah,
didn't forget.
okay. So for those of you who were tuned in last week to last week's episode, Michael was about to embark on a 80-ish K ultra-ish trail adventure on the longest day of the year, also my birthday, with a couple of friends. And I can report back, guys, I got it done. The Apple Watch Ultra 2 survived listen to this, 18 hours and 50, I think, 2 minutes of runtime.
Oof.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I was impressed not by myself by the end of it, but I was impressed with the Apple Watch because it actually survived. And just a little, like, not to get too techie here or too nerdy, but two of us were wearing it. The other guy that was wearing it wore it like without putting the battery saver mode on and got almost through the entire thing. I think it was like 18-ish hours and the battery died. And that was with like the Bluetooth on connected to his phone that was in his bag, the whole bit. Mine lasted the whole way and I had like 25-30% left at the end. So I was like deeply impressed by
that's impressive.
Because the Apple Watch is sort of known for not having as great a battery life as your sort of typical running specific GPS watch, a Garmin, a Suunto, whatever. So
Right.
I'm burying the lead here, which is
And your run?
Yeah. Okay. So we did this loop in the middle of nowhere in Ontario, in Canada. Beautiful, incredible, old mountains. I was explaining to my kid that the mountains in much of Canada, unlike in say Nepal, where the mountains are actually growing still because they're new mountains in the grand scheme of things, the Canadian mountains are, for the most part, shrinking. So these were mountains that were gigantic like millions of years ago. And they still feel quite gigantic when you try to traverse them in a single day. I'll tell you guys right now. Quartzite and granite, really beautiful white crystalline rock, pink rock, like quite incredible, like emerald lakes that I'd only ever seen in the Canadian North.
Wow.
Beautiful sights, but just like a marathon, like everyone's like, oh, the New York City Marathon, it's so cool. You get to see the 5 boroughs, go over all these bridges, blah, 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 blah. It's like, yeah, I don't remember any of it because I was in a hurt box the entire time.
Mm-hmm. Did you take any photos though, or you didn't stop for photos?
We did take some photos.
Okay.
We sort of got like, and I imagine you can relate to this, Caitlin, because you've done quite a few ultras. We got sort of halfway through our adventure because we were filtering it was unsupported. So we were filtering our own water. We were kind of fast packing it. I had like a small pack with a 2-liter bladder in the back. And then I was carrying a hand flask as well.
Yep.
And filtering water at the lake. And you get sort of seduced into taking it easy. I guess this happens in any race, right? Where it's like the siren song of just like, you don't have to be in a hurry. This is a long day. We can just sit by the lake here for a minute. Enjoy this campsite, this vacant campsite that we're using for our water filtration. And some of our water stops got a little long in the tooth, and it probably in the end cost us like a couple of hours. So,
if you take those stops easy, and I mean, it's happened to me on long runs, but in a race, I'm always like in and out of of an aid station as fast as I possibly can. But when you're running with friends and it's more of like an adventure and you're training or something, you can absolutely get swept up in that, and that will clock on time. Like you'll see in your separate time, like the moving time and the non-moving time. I'm sure you have a bunch of time there, and that was like filtering water is a whole nother level. That's going to take some time.
Our moving time was only like 14 hours or something
Yeah,
like that. So we
exactly.
lost so much time. I mean, we made so many rookie mistakes. But at the same time, it was a really cool experience. I'd say probably 30% of the trail was actually legitimately runnable. It was like the most technical trail I've ever been on. Roots, craggy rocks, boulders, mountains to go up and down. About 10-ish thousand meters of ascent and then 10,000 down, which really punishes the quads. And hats off to this guy, what's his name? Ryan Akins, I believe his name is, who has the FKT on this loop, who's like a legit FKT guy. He's got a lot of them in upstate New York and the area and Vermont and that sort of thing. And he crushed this thing in 2020, like peak COVID, summer 2020. He must have rolled into nowhere, Ontario, and just hammered this loop. It's called La Cloche, named after a group of 7 painting on the area. And he did it in 9 hours and 5 minutes, which is like less than half the time we
Wow.
did.
Holy wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just
He didn't stop at the lakes.
Nope.
no, I think he was just hitting and running. I think he was just probably quickly grabbing water and then just probably he was probably dropping iodine tablets in and just drinking the fuzzy water. We were like literally squeezing through a charcoal filter, which I think was a huge mistake. But lessons learned. I have, like with any other event, the pain has faded away. The physical pain has
Okay.
subsided. The ego pain is minimal because I'm pretty proud of what we did, and it was super fun. It was like a fun. I love the idea of doing a project versus like just purely a time-based goal with a course like a marathon on the road. Like I do love the sort of romanticism of the project, and it's fun to do this with a couple of other people as well. So I foresee this type of thing in my future. I'm not done with PR chasing just yet as an old man, but I soon will be, and I will segue.
Turn to the trails.
I will elegantly disappear into the forest.
Yay.
Yeah. So speaking of the forest, the cloudy forests, the perpetual sweat box that is Costa Rica. How's racing season going in your neck of the woods, Katelyn?
It's awesome. Last week it was one of kind of like the most prestigious races here in Rincon de la Vieja, which is out in Guanacaste, which is where usually if any of our listeners have gone to Costa Rica, you probably visited Guanacaste because where all the very cool beaches are, a couple of volcanoes out there, like awesome area for tourists. And so we headed out there, my husband and I, who are the coaches of our running club. We took about 35 people from our running club there, which was awesome. A lot of them go every year because it's just one of those classic races. And they're 10K, 25K, 50K. In other years, there have been an 80K and 100K and 100 miles. They did one year, but it's very hot here to do 100 miles.
Oof.
Yeah. And so we had a great time. It was very cool because usually when we go to races and there are other people from the running club racing, we race too. So we don't really get to see them a lot. And also I'm in a totally different mindset. I'm not in like the coaching mindset. I'm in the racing mindset. So it's different. When I go to this race or when I go to a race and just accompany the racers, it's so much fun because I get to be their personal cheerleader. I'm there before they take off at the start line. I'm waiting for them with homemade cookies when they come in the finish line. And so I'm just like
Nice.
having fun. Having a lot of fun and supporting them and watching them like smash their goals and all that stuff, which is super fun. We had even a couple podium finishes, which was really exciting for a couple of the athletes. They had a second place and a third place in the 25K. And some people running their first ultras, some people running their first 10K. It was just like a really cool weekend.
That's neat. As Alex and I were marveling as we're like sipping a beer then after going for a nice like 9 p.m. run the night before the Boston Marathon and having a beverage and doing a little bit of last minute cramming before we cover the race on race day. It's like, there's nothing better than being at a big race and not having to actually run the race.
Yeah, exactly. Totally.
Yeah. So let's segue into speaking of big races, the races of certain people's lives. The U.S. Olympic Trials is going on right now in Eugene, which is just such an awesome venue to host this. I mean, they've got this incredible culture of running there with the University of Oregon. The renovated Hayward Field, which is like the best place on earth to watch a race, and some incredible performances going on, and like some pretty harrowing moments as well. Alex, let's just do a little, because we're not done with the Olympic trials yet. It still goes on throughout the weekend, but there's been a lot of racing this week thus far. What's like a standout moment for you?
Yeah, it's such a long trial. 7 days for picking one team. Ooh, it's tough to pick one best moment. I want to go towards the 1500, but I'll resist it because I know I'm biased towards it. It's my favorite. Saw Yared Nugus take the win, one of the three best milers in the world, taking it home, going to go to the championship. He's got like a bunch of fans wearing goose hats to cheer him on. Awesome. But I think the moment that stood out for me and that solidified how strong the States are was the men's 100-meter final. Noah Lyles takes the win, 9.83. And I mean, only a handful of men have gone under 9.9 in the history of the world, right? So 9.83 is incredibly elite. I think he's my pick to be the Olympic champion. Fred Curley finishes third. He's the defending silver medalist. Okay, good. He's going. Kenny Bednarek absolutely surprises, finishes second, runs 9.87. And this podium is maybe not a surprise if it wasn't for the fact that Christian Coleman, who arguably is a shoe-in to win a medal at any world championship or Olympic, gets left off the team, finishes fourth, runs a 9.93. And it kind of broke my heart because Coleman's been around for a really long time. He's known as one of the best athletes in the world, never made the Olympics, right? He just missed it in 2016. Next Olympics come around, he's serving a violation, a whereabouts violation. That's when like the doping control tries to find you to take mandatory drug tests and you're not around. Questionable what happened there, whatever. He served his band. Now he's back. And once again, he misses the team. So my heart goes out to him. You know, it's not often you see such a high caliber athlete miss the game. So it told me, some people say sprinting is dead and sprinting's boring. Now that Usain Bolt is not in the sport, I think it's the total opposite. It's anyone's game all the time. The States are so strong, and to have an athlete like that be left home is wild to me.
Anything but boring. I love watching sprinting.
Right?
It's just incredible. No,
well, you don't know who's going to win.
Yeah, never. No, not to the last millisecond.
It's also kind of the perfect social media era event or sport or sub event within a sport, I guess we call it. Because as an example, just again this morning, just in prep for this repod, I watched that 100-meter that final that you're talking about like 5-6 times in a row because like it's a pretty short clip. It's a sub 10-second experience, all things considered. Even with just sort of like cutting it up, like USATF had posted the video, the actual race itself when they're in the blocks and going. Start to finish, it's like a minute and change long, and you just scrub back, watch it again, scrub back, watch it again. Get to like, I rewatched the start a bunch of times, and like, yeah, Coleman had an awesome start. He was out in front, and the commentator kept saying like Christian Coleman, thinking that he was going to run away with this event. It was going to be his big sort of breakthrough moment. And then 100 meters. The back 50 of that race, really important. And Noah Lyles looked like he had like a video game cheat code to use where he's just like AB select start. And then he just like took off and was like the last 40 meters, he just absolutely buried it. And then I imagine guys like, imagine Netflix right now, which are in the throes of producing that sprint docuseries for us to watch, are like, who the hell is this Kenny guy? We don't have any footage of Kenny. What are we going to do here? This guy's going to the Olympics and we've not even talked about him once. So that's crazy. And that's the agony and the ecstasy of the Olympic trials construction, right? That like top 3 go.
Yep.
Otherwise, too bad, so sad, which I don't know how you guys feel about, but we can actually get right into why that is kind of a painful thing, especially for this U.S. team. Like Katelyn, the women's 800 meter final was just like, oh man, like a gut punch to watch.
Yep. That was horrible. That was devastating for a thing Mo, who got clipped in the 800 meter race. And just watching the pack and watching her fall down was devastating because first I thought, okay, maybe it's going to be like what happens in a lot of these track races where she just walks off the track and it just feels hard. But she got back up as fast as she could. She started racing again, which I find super respectful. I know that it's something that I always kind of think about. It happens a lot in the ultra world. Like I feel when an elite runner isn't going to make it and they know they're not going to make it and they decide just to DNF, a do not finish. They decide to get out of the race instead of finishing because they don't want to run all those extra miles if they know they're already behind and they're not going to make a podium finish. I know this is on a very different scale and the fact that it's a lot short of a race, but it's the same idea. I mean, maybe she thought she was going to be able to catch up, but I mean, even that couple of seconds in such a short race, I felt that it was going to be really hard for her to be able to get back into that pack. But watching her jump back up and just kill it and just turn on the gas and try to go as fast as she could to catch back up, it was inspiring, but then devastating again when she couldn't make it and just seeing her face at the end. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I just felt like my heart broke for her because it's just like, that's it. You're not on the team. Because
I thought she was going to do it.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. Like with one lap to go, I saw her briefly catch up to the lead group and I thought, oh my God, this is going to be amazing. And no, it's awful. I mean, the good thing about this is I think in the next Olympic cycle, she'll still be in the prime of her career. I think she's just 22 years old. So at least she'll get another crack at the Olympics.
Thank goodness. Yeah,
because she was the Olympic champion when she was 19. She started her career so early. So she's got another chance. And hey, it's like weird, dark, poetic justice, right? Because last time around, the last US trials, it was Nia Akins, the 800 meter runner who fell and didn't qualify for the games. This time around, she took the win and she's going. So no, it's like we've talked about this in length before. It's how cutthroat it is to just have your top 3 athletes go to the games, no questions asked. Whereas, here in Canada, we're used to this system. There's a lot more subjectivity. Say a top runner like Mo or Mo's equivalent doesn't perform or falls or something happens, they're sick. Well, then Canada will take into account her past performances and then weigh that against the championships performance, and you end up having perhaps a more, I don't know if it's more fair. I don't know. What do you guys think? Is it more fair to just have the top 3 go at trials?
You guys are not going to be surprised by this rant.
By this rant. Get ready. Get ready, listeners.
Rant alert. I think it would be really nice if there were a league where there were performances for, say, I don't know, 6, 8, 10 weeks, maybe even throughout the entire year with an indoor session as well, where we had a very clear ranking, like a power ranking of each athlete. I don't know, kind of like all the other grown-up team sports that make a lot of money and we know all the athletes' names, like in the NBA and the NFL. We know who the best teams in the league are because they've got a leaderboard and they've got wins and losses and they've got a ranking system. Be cool if they had that, wouldn't it, guys? And they don't have it right now. Maybe they will in the near future with the big changes that are hopefully coming in the sport. But I think that would make a heck of a lot more sense. I love the one-off race, and I get this argument that this is a snapshot or prep for the Olympic Games where it's all or nothing. And you've got to be able to deliver on the biggest stage in the biggest moment, and that's racing. I get that. But at the same time, it's like, I think USATF and fans of track and field, especially American fans, are kind of they're missing something significant with Ethingmo not presumably making it to the Olympic to an Olympic final. I mean, it's a presumption to assume that she'd make it all the way to the final, but I think we could say so because she's the reigning champ and also just one of the very best in the world at the peak of her powers. So I think it sucks. I think it sucks all around. I don't know what to say. But at the same time, she lodged a complaint, and the complaint was not valid. She got clipped. Yep. That's the way it goes in these tight races, and it's unfortunate to see. We should say Nia Akins, she ran a 1:57, which is a fantastic time, world-class performance by her to get to the Olympic Games, and a happily ever after story, as Alex pointed out. And Allie Wilson and Juliet Whitaker are also going for the 800 meters for the U.S., which is cool.
Yep.
Let's segue into a distance a little bit longer than 800 meters.
A little bit longer than sub 2 minutes.
A little bit longer than almost an entire day. The Western States 100-mile race is taking place this weekend in Auburn, California. It's the this is just a cliche that's been used, the Super Bowl of, but it's the Super Bowl of the ultra trail scene. It's one of the great races. It's kind of like, I think, Katelyn, like the first, it's got the status of being kind of like the first real legit 100-miler. It's got a real important, it's kind of the Boston Marathon of ultras, right? Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, that even makes more sense because the Boston Marathon is like the marathon that most people aspire to qualify for and to get to. And with Western States, you have to do the same thing because with Western States, you have to run one of the qualifying races just to be eligible to get into the lottery, just to be able to put your ticket in. So you've got to kind of go through a process like you would, with Boston, because you have to run a preliminary race. You have to be able to finish that race within the cutoff time of that race to be able to qualify for the lottery. So you have to qualify for the lottery, then you get your ticket into the lottery. And the kind of cool thing about the lottery system is that your ticket always stays in the lottery. So if you don't get in the first year and you get in the next year and you put another ticket in, your chances kind of like multiply over the years. So hopefully you'll get in at some point. We had one of our runners in the running club last year put in a ticket for the lottery, first timer, and he got in. So it was the first time I think someone from Costa Rica went to Western States, which was very cool.
Oh, cool. That
for
is
him.
Cool.
Yeah, he was like at least the first or one of the first people who had ever gotten in, and that was very cool for him. He had an amazing time, and we trained him for it. He did really well and was super happy. It was his first 100-miler. So really, really cool experience. But yeah, so that's why they call it kind of like the Boston Marathon, because it's tricky to get in. You do have most of the people who get in do come in through the lottery. And there are these other races where they have golden tickets, like Black Canyon, which is a race that I ran a couple of years ago. So if you're one of the top two, you get an automatic golden ticket to be able to go run Western States. So that's like kind of another group of people who get to go, but most of them are pretty elite because they're winning these races and they enter these races for that golden ticket. So those races are usually very competitive as well because they're fighting. You have a bunch of people fighting for the golden tickets to get into Western States. So yes, very tough 100-mile race, net descent, right? So it does have more downhill than it does uphill, also like the Boston Marathon.
Hard on the quads.
Hard on the quads. So so it looks like it's going to be pretty exciting. I was watching the panel with the elite racers who are coming in and fighting. They're going to, fight it out for the win. But we've got, I think, kind of like, I don't know if I have top picks. I don't know how interested our listeners are in all of this ultra stuff, but maybe because Jim Walmsley had a documentary come out recently about his UTMB race. Maybe people have heard a little bit more about him. He's racing, and he also has a course record, so that should be super exciting to watch. My favorite, Courtney Dauwalter, she's not racing this year. She has the course record as well. But there's this amazing trail runner, Katie Scheid, who's going to be in there in the runnings. And of course, there are a handful of fantastic runners on both the men and women fields, and I think they're going to give those two a hard time anyway, but it's going to be kind of fun to watch. So if you like trail running and you're interested in getting into it, Western States is the one to watch because the elite fields are like super stacked and it's going to be an exciting race.
So Michael, how does it feel to think that if you did Western States, that means you would do your entire trail run, finish it, turn around, and then do it again?
I mean,
yes. Good point, Alex.
I don't want to think about that, man. That's just cruel. I do like Western States tagline is 100 miles one day, and could it be 100 miles 2 days? I don't know. It would be in my case.
You said your ego wasn't bruised. Let's work on that.
Yeah. Well, you know what you and I could do, Alex, is because it's so hard to get in and there's a tough lottery to get in. You and I could just start entering our names in now. And then,
no, I'm okay. It's fine.
Oh, I'm okay.
And eventually, when we finally get our ticket pulled, we'll be ready to run a 100-miler because it'll be like, maybe 10 or 12 years down the line. But
I don't know. I think my yearly mileage has gone down in the last 10 years. So I don't know where this is trending.
Listen, it's a one-off. You just got to get it done, right?
Just do it. I've never thought about running Western States, but if you guys go, I'm going.
I mean, I'm intrigued by stuff like this. I'm not going to like get over my skis here too much and claim I'm ever going to explore doing Western States because it's extremely hard to get in, first of all, and I've got no business thinking I would. So, but it sounds like a really cool event. Although and you can stream it. I believe they provide a stream. We've got coverage. Our colleague Jesse Carveth, our news editor, has written a complete preview and a deep dive on who the runners are to know, what the course is all about, what the experience is like. Start time starts at 5 a.m. local time in California. What the weather's going to be like. Spoiler alert, hot.
Hot, very hot.
Yeah, very hot, like almost like in the 90s. It's going to be brutal. Like it starts by going up a mountain and then it goes down into this ravine, into this kind of famous riverbed area. And yeah, it's just a really cool race with a huge history. It's worth doing the like nerdy internet deep dive on it. Just reading the Wikipedia article alone is kind of neat, but also, there's some great stuff in like the New York Times did a feature on Jim Walmsley a couple of years ago, and he's kind of he's a legend of ultra running now, a living legend that's kind of still at his peak. And he'll be racing this weekend, so you'll look for a big performance from him. So yeah, very cool event, worth following for sure. Even as a casual, as I think Alex and I more are. You're obviously a dyed-in-the-wool ultra fiend, Katelyn, and but it's one of the ones to pay. This one, UTMB, Hard Rock, they're fun to follow and like wild events and very aspirational. All right, let's take a quick break and then we will get into our big topic of the day: buying running shoes in 2024. What are we looking at here? What's some recommendations from our shoe czar, Alex Cyr, as well as unpacking best super shoes of the year and much, much more. We'll be right back. All right, and we're back. Shoes 2024. Alex, you're our shoe expert here at Marathon Handbook. I'm not sure if shoes are easier to shop for and to figure out what shoe is best for you for training, for racing, or if it's more complex, more muddied. You recently created an excellent YouTube video rounding out the top 5 training shoes so far this year, kind of a mid-year, a mid-2024 check-in, appropriately halfway through this year. And you've got the same treatment coming up for the super shoes, for racing shoes, which will be a video that's going to drop in the next couple of days. So we thought it'd be a good time to talk about how it is you go about shopping for shoes, what shoes you select for training and for racing, what the heck all these different categories are now. It used to be neutral, used to be stability, and then you get your racing shoes as well. What's the lay of the land right now for us?
Yeah, those categories still exist, but I wouldn't say that they're the main qualifier of what a shoe is. It's not about stability neutral as much as it's about the speed of the shoe. And by that, I mean, I think you have like 3 categories of shoes now. Okay. You have your training shoes, which are the shoes that your dad wears and the shoes that probably you've worn for most of your running career. They're the Asics Nimbus or they're the Nike Pegasus. The good rule of thumb is if the shoe has a big number in its name, it's a training shoe because it's been around for a really long time. It's your bread and butter. Okay. Then you have the super shoes. The super shoes are those fancy racing shoes that we see. First, we started seeing all the elites wearing them, and now mostly everybody who enters a race is wearing a pair of super shoes. So that's your Nike Vaporfly or your Adidas Adios Pro. They have carbon plates in them. That's their main differentiator. And they also have a pretty big slab of foam that we call PIBA foam. P is for polymer. It's basically just a more responsive, lighter foam. And if you've ever tried a pair of super shoes on, you know what they feel like. They just bounce off the ground way more than your classic training shoes, and they're quite a bit lighter. That's two categories. The third, and I'd say probably the most recent category, are the super trainers, which is kind of a hybrid of both, right? It's a shoe with this cool foam, maybe not a carbon plate, but the main differentiator is that they're massive. They're made to save the feet. They're made to give you a little bit more support than a training shoe for your everyday workouts, but also are spring loaded so that they make you feel fast. And the rule of thumb is, if you don't mind buying a few pairs of shoes, you use training shoes for easy runs. You use super trainers for workouts and then super shoes for races. That's like probably the most simple way to lay it out.
Okay. I think I'm missing a pair of shoes then.
Oh, really?
Yes. What a shame. I think I have an excuse to buy a new pair of shoes because Alex told me to. Because I've got,
What are you missing?
I'm missing the super trainers. I think I'm doing the workouts in either a trainer, probably, I think an everyday trainer, or I'm using my retired super shoes from the recent marathon. So I'm missing that in between super trainer that I definitely want to give a try to. If you tell me I'm going to be faster in my workouts, then I'll do it.
Yeah, well, you and everybody else. And I think that's why super trainers exist. Like a couple years ago, many people had bought a pair of super shoes and that was for their races only and did
Yep.
all of their other runs in training shoes. But then when it came to that key session, right, the few workouts that you do before the race to really tune up, people would ask themselves, should I just keep wearing my regular old trainers? Or do I put on my super shoes to simulate a race? The problem with that, obviously, is if you keep wearing super shoes in training, you wear them out. They're not all that durable. I think they probably last about 200, 300 kilometers, and they're super expensive. So people were ripping through their super shoes, and there was a gap there. You need that third middling pair of shoes. And I use them for all workouts. I get these super shoes, these super trainers. They fill a gap in the arsenal of shoes now for most people.
Yeah, I think what was happening, as Katelyn just touched upon, is that for quite a while, so the super shoe came out 2017, 2018, they start to really kind of trickle into the mainstream. And you run like, I don't know, a couple, say like 2 marathons in the Nike Vaporfly or whatever. And then you start second guessing the how much juice, how much oomph is left in your super shoe when you go into marathon number 3, and you're like, well, I want to get that 4-ish% bump in performance. I want to shave off those seconds or even minutes and attack a personal best in the marathon. So I'm not leaving any time on the table. I'm going to reload, buy a fresh pair of shoes. And of course, like the Nike or then Adidas and other brands, marketing was pretty good. So you get lured into the latest iteration. But then you had this like $350-ish or more pair of shoes that you're kind of looking at them and you're like, there's still a little bit of life left in these. So you transition into using them in workouts or in long runs as well. Because I think one of the sneaky cool upsides of the super shoe and now the super trainer is that you can bounce back pretty quickly from a hard workout or a long run by wearing these things because they've just got so much cushioning to them, right? And at first we were seeing reports of elite athletes doing this, training a lot more in those shoes because they're able to recover a lot better from a 20-mile long run, particularly with a lot of hard effort in there. And then you start hearing about recreational runners doing the same thing. I know quite a few runners that do that, that still do that. But that's a pretty expensive proposition, especially when you start buying a super shoe to use for training. So yeah, the super trainer makes a lot of sense. Okay. So Alex, obviously let's say about 85-90% of your running is going to be done in an everyday trainer. Maybe like 8 to 10, maybe even 15% is done in a super trainer, or maybe even more. Maybe if you're doing your long runs in there, the super trainer might take up about 20%, kind of the 80-20 rule. And then there's like a 1 or 2% that you're running in a super shoe when you're racing. So that big 80% slab of running that you're going to do, all the volume you're going to do throughout the entire summer for that fall marathon or training for a 10K or a half marathon, You did a video where you recommended a top 5 everyday trainers. Like, what are your picks? What are your recommendations for anybody who I'm new to running, or I'm just looking to get a fresh pair of shoes? Alex, tell me what shoes I should buy.
So there's the ranking video, and then also we made a video after that. So we'll start with this. Actually was my number 4 training shoe in my personal ranking,
Okay.
but this shoe I picked, that's the one I tell people they should buy when they ask me. They've never run before, they want to buy a pair of shoes. I tell them to get the Asics Nimbus 26. And the reason for that is it's a safe shoe. I've been wearing it lately coming back from injury. It's not a fast shoe. It's not a sexy shoe whatsoever. You don't bounce off the ground wearing an Asics Nimbus. Again, your dad wears it, right? You've seen it for years. But what it is, it's durable, lasts a really long time. Like I've worn pairs of Nimbus for like 1,200 kilometers, which is a really long time running. And also they're comfortable. They have the support, and I've never had an issue with them. So that's like my safe recommendation. For my own personal preference, I ranked number 4. Do you want to go? You want me to go 5 to 1 favorite shoes?
Just run through the top 5 very quickly, so that if you're not an Asics person, you can be like, oh well, then there's a Brooks or a New Balance option or whatever.
Yeah, well, okay, we'll start at 5. 5 was the Hoka Clifton 9. The cool part about that shoe is that it's super cushioned, but it's light. It would float in a puddle, let's say. It's not that durable. That's the issue with it. My Cliftons tend to flame out after 600 kilometers, but for someone who wants a light training shoe, that's a good pick. If you're a fan of Hokas, go for it. Number 4 is the Nimbus that I just mentioned. Number 3, I went with Brooks, the Glycerin 21. I haven't worn much Brooks in my life, but this one, it's a Goldilocks, right? It's kind of lightweight. It has good durability, good support, right? It's not the best at any category, but it's quite solid. And I like wearing it because it makes me feel a little bit bouncy on my easy runs without me going too fast and without it being too spring loaded and make me run out of control. So the Glycerin's a good pick. Number 2, I went with the New Balance 880 V14. A little bias on my end. I grew up on New Balance. The Zontes were an absolute hit for me. They don't make them anymore.
No, yeah.
Yeah. And the 880s are probably the closest thing to that. Somewhat smaller as a training shoe. Bounce off the ground pretty well. Still has some good support and just fit well on my feet. And number 1, I went off the map, and I thought people would respond to that video being like, oh, cool, this is a cool new shoe. I got torn apart. People hate this shoe. Nike Invincible Run 3. It's like, it's a weird shoe. Doesn't feel like the others. It does have a bit of muscle. You can maybe make a case for it being a super trainer just because it has a big slab of pretty responsive foam. It's a rigid shoe. It puts your foot straight and kind of guides you through your run. The reason I picked it is because I just feel natural. My stride doesn't feel too awkward when I run in it. And also that one too has lasted me about 1,200 kilometers. So, and I still have it. I haven't thrown them out yet. So the Nike Invincible Run 3, if you're somewhat curious to try a new kind of training shoe, was that was top notch for me.
I have to admit, I'm one of those people that was just kind of shaking my head when we were going through the edits of that video. I was like, Alec, whoa, that's like a bold top pick. I'm like, I'm not a big fan of that, the Invincible shoe. Maybe I haven't put enough kilometers in it or miles in it. And you did touch upon something really important about running shoes overall, is that there's kind of 2 different subdomains experientially with training shoes. There's you put it on and it's just like, it's the glass slipper, except running in a glass slipper would totally suck. But it's like the equivalent of the glass slipper. You just put it on. It's like, oh, it just feels right. My foot fits. This is magic. And I have that experience when I wear Brooks shoes.
Yes,
and that's like the magic of Brooks. And I think the highest compliment that you can give to a shoe company is that they make shoes. I don't know how they do it. They make shoes that where you slip them on, you're just like, that abused running term comes to mind. Plush. You're just like, oh, this feels, whatever the word plush, that's how my feet feel right now. is like saying the word plush. And the Nike shoe, totally different than that. Kind of firm, kind of weird, like just kind of like, but you have to break it in. And I think that that's the big issue. So maybe if you're willing to go on a few runs where you're kind of wondering why you bought the shoe, it may pay dividends in the end. But that's a very risky proposition, right? It's really hard to buy a shoe and convince yourself that it's going to work out, and then it works out.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah. And that's why I think people just need to go to stores and test out shoes for themselves because there is some personal variability, right? Some people hate long, like big heel to toe drop, like the vertical difference between how tall the heel is in the shoe and how tall the toe is. Some people can't deal with it. Some people like zero drop. For some people, it's the opposite. You need to try out shoes. So my thing is I've never liked Saucony shoes. I've tried.
really.
They've been
Okay.
big for so long. A lot of people like them, especially their mainstays like the Kinvaras, the Saucony Ride. I'm convinced that they're good shoes because most people do enjoy them, but they don't work for me. I get shin splints, I get pains, they don't feel comfortable. And I think that's just it. Sometimes your feet don't mesh with a certain type of shoe. And that's why like don't just watch the video and order the shoes online. Go to the running store, try them out. The best running stores are the ones that like let you go outside, like in the parking lot and do a couple strides in the shoes. That's so helpful. And I wish I would have done that a bit more in my past because sometimes I just bought shoes because they looked cool and I wanted to like them. One of them is the Pegasus, the Nike Pegasus. I cannot deal with. I can't stand it. It's too shallow for my foot. I wear orthotics and my heel pops out. And it sucks because they're cool and oftentimes they're cheap when you find them at outlet stores and when they're the previous models. But I gave up. It just doesn't work for me. Do you guys have like a shoe that you can't deal with or that you hate?
I think I've been trying for a really long time. It's not that it's just I want to love Hoka. I want
Oh,
to
wow.
I
Oh,
want to love Hoka because all the trail scene people use Hoka. Hoka's the big brand. I have had some good experiences with Hoka, but like for me to use a Hoka shoe, I have to be like if I'm thinking about trail running, it has to be like basically a road because the shoes are so clunky that I feel like I need less surface area being covered to have really good control over technical terrain. So that's the
interesting.
thing that's been, yeah, it's been like tricky for me because I just can't, I try them out and find myself switching back to other stuff. I mean, for road, as you said, the Cinderella shoe, Brooks is for me. I have, the glycerin, I have the trace, I have the launch, I love Brooks. And actually, I'm gonna try out. They're coming today, which is so exciting. I'm gonna
Hmm.
try well, the Divide is actually a hybrid shoe that Brooks did between trail and road. And I wore that in Black Canyon a couple of years ago because it wasn't going to be so technical. And I loved that. So I got another pair of those that I'm going to try out. And I'm going back to the Cascadia, which is an old
Oh, wow.
Brooks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an
Classic.
old Brooks trail running shoe, and they've kind of made the toe box a little wider. So I'm super psyched about that, and I'm actually getting those today. So I'm excited to try those out this weekend on my trail run. But I think like I just want to love Hoka, and I just haven't been able to get into the groove with them. But like a disaster shoe, not yet. Michael, do you have a disaster shoe?
I don't have a full on like unmitigated disaster. I'm pretty flexible when it comes to shoes. I've been fortunate enough working in this industry for a long time now to test out like every single shoe and many iterations of every shoe over the years. I would say for a super shoe, the Alpha Fly, I've always kind of wanted to like the Alpha Fly. It's Kipchoge's shoe. It's like it's close to like a LeBron and has the LeBron shoe, and there was the Kobe shoe. I believe like basketball players always have like of course the Air Jordans, and
Jordans?
the Alpha Fly is was kind of the closest thing to like a runner getting a signature shoe as you can get in our world, in the marathon world in particular. And so I was kind of always excited and intrigued by the Alpha Fly, and it just never worked for me. It was sort of like I have a narrow foot, but it just felt it should work because it's kind of known to be a narrow shoe with a high arch. and it just didn't feel like my foot didn't fit in it properly, and I just never could do the Alpha Fly. But Alex, similar to you, like the Pegasus, I'm very hit and miss with. My issue with the Pegasus is this: it feels like a fantastic kind of just right everyday neutral trainer when you put it on your foot. And you're right, it's so alluring because Nike, they know how to do the marketing, right? It just looks good. The colorways are nice,
Oh, yeah.
and I find they wear out for me fairly quickly. Like I find I'm a mid to 4 foot striker, so I find it gets really thin in the 4 foot pretty quickly after just like 200 miles. I'm like, ugh, I'm just not getting as much out of that shoe as I want. I want that shoe to last 500 miles or 800K or whatever. And I just find it's lasting less than that. So I need a little bit more out of my shoe than that. That would be my, it's just like a mild disappointment from time to time. Yeah, guys. So what are you wearing right now? I think this is a great segue into what's on your feet. Like what's your go-to shoe right now? What do you put in the miles in on, Alex? The red dirt of Prince Edward Island? What are you covering in that iconic scree?
Yeah, if I come back to Toronto next week, people will think I've been to Kenya because my sneakers are all red. It's like, no, it's not so cool. I've just been on the island. No, me, it's the Nimbus right now, just to come back from injury. Usually I alternate. I know you both alternate shoes, but I had some packing issues. Basically needed to stuff a bunch of podcasting gear inside of a backpack and can only fit one pair of shoes. And I thought,
Well
well, if I'm
done.
running that much right now, one pair of Asics Nimbus should do the trip. And so far I've been happy with it. I was hoping to get into a racing season with the Alpha Fly, but it's the same. And there's so much shame with noticing that the Alpha Fly is not for you because it's like it's the like you said, it's the Nike shoe. So it's like Nike's not the problem, you're the problem. You should be fitting in these shoes. So racing shoes, still not sure what I'll be wearing up this year. I like smaller super shoes as opposed to bigger super shoes. So Alpha Fly, probably not. I have a couple choices of what I'm probably going to wear. Nike Vaporfly 3 is a sleeper for me because it's the understudy of the Alpha Fly, right? It's just not as sexy, but it's smaller. And I think it's lighter. And I think it's faster. And I think it's better. And it's shaped a whole lot like there's an ASIC shoe that I really like, the Metaspeed Paris. Same thing on the smaller, quote unquote, minimalist size for a super shoe, compared to your big, massive Alpha Flies and Co. So either these two. So I think soon enough I'll be in a rotation of Asics Nimbus, Hoka Skyward X Super Trainer, leave that out there, and either the Asics Metaspeed Paris and or Nike Vaporfly for racing.
Yeah. I think my shoe rotation right now is obviously some sort of the Brooks because I'm rotating out the glycerin, the newer glycerins, and the Asics Nova Blast, which I love, which I use today. Yeah, those have been great for me. And my question mark of the super trainers that I would like to add into the rotation. And I'm also a Vaporfly lover ever since my marathon that I just ran. And I use the Vaporfly and I absolutely love them. So I think that will be when I do another marathon or any road racing, I would like to use definitely the Vaporflies again. But I do think they're so cool looking. I had the like neon orange ones with the purple check. I thought they were super cool looking. Yeah, they were really awesome. It was like when I was running and they took the photos of me running at the marathon, I could only see the shoes. Like it was just like this, neon light coming out of the road. But yeah, that's pretty much what I'm using right now.
I am rotating right now through, like Katelyn, I'm wearing a pair of Brooks, and I had a similar experience that you have both described with that plush feeling when I put on a pair of Brooks Launch. Okay, so the Launch is a bit of an oddball in the Brooks lineup because it's kind of I think it's been positioned now as being kind of a stripped down, almost like trainer workout shoe / maybe kind of more like recreational racer shoe as well, because it's fairly basic. It's like a basic neutral trainer, quick trainer. But I kind of like that feeling. I've always sort of drifted towards I can wear a pretty light shoe and it doesn't seem to bother me. my love affair with shoes. My one true life partner with running shoes has always been the Adidas Adios, which has gone through many iterations and is now graduated into super shoe stardom as being the Adios Pro. But they also still make the Adios kind of racing slipper that doesn't have any of the PIBA foam or the carbon plate, and I still buy those. So I still have a pair of those. I wear a pair of Adidas Boston for some of my workouts. But Alex, now that you've brought up the Super Trainer as a core component of your weekly running, I think I might adopt that approach as well and find myself the Just Right Super Trainer. I'm not sure which one yet. I'm intrigued by your love of the Hoka Skyward X. We tested that in Boston, and it was a nice looking shoe, and it by all accounts sounds like it kind of delivers on the conceit. And in terms of super shoes, in terms of the big race, I'm going to go after it in Chicago this October, and I want a good shoe. I want the best shoe. I don't know what I'm going to go with. I am thankfully done with this worn out pair of Nike Vaporflies, the like lime green ones. It was just the worst friggin' colorway ever. And when they came out with the green and the pink, I didn't like either color. I was like, I don't know. I'll take the green ones, I guess. I'm so happy that I'm finally done with those. Those are trash. They're finished. So I'm gonna treat myself going into Chicago, and what I want, Alex knows what I'm going to say.
Mm-hmm.
I want the Adidas Adios Pro Evo 1 or 2 if they have a second one coming out in the fall, which I suspect they will because we've seen it on some elite runners' feet this spring, and I think it will be featured heavily in the Olympics as well. It's that super duper light, absolute, like it's the Alpha Fly killer. There was a lot of hype around it because we did a segment on this, I believe, in the past where it was a lot of hype around this shoe because it was allegedly a one and done, one marathon, and then it was cooked, and then you couldn't run in it anymore. It was like all it had in it was one marathon, but it would give you your greatest marathon. That's apparently untrue. Alex and I have done some reporting on that. We talked to some engineers from Adidas, some shoe designers, and they said, no, this is like totally a misunderstanding. It lasts longer than that. So bring me the Evo. I want the Evo. It just looks aesthetically, it's a beautiful looking shoe too. So very minimal, very classic lines. It kind of looks like if the Adios shoe, which I've always loved, is like a classic sports car, the Evo version kind of looks like an F1 version. It's just like there's no doors on this thing. There's no roof. There's no windshield. It's just you put the driver in the center, and it's a giant engine and tires, and it goes right with a lot of downforce. So that's the shoe I want. We'll see if I can actually get my hands on a pair because there's an issue with like they only make like 500 of them. So yeah, that's where I'm at. What's your? I mean, I sort of teased what my all-time favorite shoe is. Do you guys have an all-time favorite?
A shoe came to mind as we were chatting. I mean, okay, all-time favorite shoe. Yeah, you'd almost need to break down categories. So to keep it simple, let me bring up this one shoe that I have in my basement and that I've been wearing for my bike rides, my stationary bike rides here to do my last part of my daily training. I get on the spin bike. There's a shoe here that I haven't worn in just about 7 years, and I found it in the basement. It's a shoe of a bygone era, the minimalist era, when there was no carbon plates, no PIBA foam, and the metric by which we evaluated shoes was only one: lightness. Mizuno got ahead of the game at this point.
Okay.
They made a pair of shoes that was lighter than any pair of shoes I've ever encountered, I think, in the world. If I'm wrong, I'd love for someone to let me know. 2.9 ounces. Okay? Mizuno Wave Universe. There were 5 iterations. I had number 5. They're glorified slippers. I wore them for a 10K once. I couldn't do stairs for the next 3 days. And I was staying in my friend's basement because he was in Ottawa where the race was. And so me and my other friends who were completely knees deep inside of this minimalist phase or belief couldn't even get down to our bedrooms. Our calves were so torn up. Anyway, I kept the shoes. They're full of blood. It's more of a
Oh,
statement piece at this point.
No.
I like it.
And I took it and I took it and I took one of my like New Balance Super Comp trainers, which is massive, and I compared the two. And I'd say the Mizuno Wave Universe is a third the size, but they're slippers. You throw them up in the air outside and the wind blows them away. It is crazy. And I wouldn't wear them these days because I think they're terrible for your legs. But oh, I admire the boldness, the Mizuno's boldness to make these slippers to see how many people would buy them.
Oh my goodness. I'm trying to think. That's why I'm so quiet. I'm like, okay, I don't think that I can say a favorite pair of shoes, but I'm gonna piggyback on the minimalist phase that we all go through. And so when I started trail running, I had some great support down here from Innovate. And so
Oh,
Innovate
yeah.
has, yeah.
With the
So
8.
yeah, the 8,
Mhm.
Innovate. And so you would think that they were more maybe like shoes to work out at the gym, but they do have trail running shoes. And when I started trail running about 11 years ago, I think one of my first pairs of shoes were Innovate. And I can't even remember the model. That's how long ago we're talking. A very, very long time ago. I've got pictures somewhere. Um, but I thought that they were super fun shoes. And yeah, I was running much more minimalist. As a trail runner, I really have liked hard shoes for a long time because I like to feel the trail, especially here where everything's so technical. It's not like if I were on, nice gravel, smooth trails and roads, it would be a little different because I could use something that's a little cushier. But so the Innovate was really great for tricky technical terrain because you're really close to the ground. But I do believe that those were zero drop. So I have come far from the minimalist stage, and I don't really use minimal shoes anymore at all. And I've got that nice heel to toe drop in all of my shoes and stuff. But I did go through that phase, Alex, with those like super light, minimal, zero drop shoes as well for a while.
I feel like the minimalist phase. I feel like in the running and your running journey, going through the minimalist phase is kind of like when you're like a freshman in college and you discover Marxism and you read the Communist Manifesto, and for like a couple of years you're like, we need to change society, man. We need to do this. We need to do things differently. This is crazy. Capitalism is evil. And then you grow up and you just kind of give up on that stuff. Or maybe you don't. And kudos to you, I guess. But I feel like that's the minimalist phase where it's just like, it's all a lie. Cushioning is a lie. And then you get to be, in your old age of your, 30s or 40s, and you're just like, you know what? A slab of something underfoot is not a bad idea.
Like this hurts a little bit. Yeah, it hurts a little bit.
Yeah. It's like, I want to pretend this is easy, but it's not. Although I will say that I do like a lighter shoe. Like I do like to feel the ground underneath my feet a little bit. So yeah. All right. We've gone deep down the shoe rabbit hole.
We've compared minimalism to Marxism.
That's right. If you're still listening to this podcast at this point, thank you. We appreciate you. Yeah. Alex, you've got a video coming out, which is kind of the sibling video to your top 5 training shoes, everyday running shoes of the year so far, which will be
the top 5 super shoes of 2024 so far.
Brilliant. That's coming out. I think it's going to come out. The pod's dropping on Friday. So it's going to come out in the next couple of days. So subscribe to our YouTube channel and you'll get all of Alex's videos and so much more. They're truly wonderful. So make sure you watch them. And if you haven't already, rate and subscribe. Subscribe, of course, and rate and review this podcast. It helps us out a lot. And follow us on our socials. Our colleague Jesse's putting out new news multiple times a day on our site, marathonhandbook.com, every single day. And I'm in the process right now of putting together our Olympic editorial package or plan for how we're going to cover the Olympics. And, we've got the whole marathon season coming up this fall as well. So make sure you follow everything we're doing, and all sorts of exciting things coming down the pipe for us. Rebrand is forthcoming. It's going to be an exciting year to wrap things up in 2024 for us. All right, guys. Thanks very
Awesome.
much. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Till next time.